Hopefully we have some tips here to help you avoid those price hikes.
Good one.
G'day guys. Today we've got something a bit different. We're going to be running through some gear and some tips for if you're starting out hiking, like what kind of things we would use or what kind of things we did use in the past, just to get you on your feet and get you out there doing stuff. But first, of course, we have beer.
We do have beer indeed. This is from Laughing Bones Brewing. They're New Zealand, batch brewed in New Zealand. There you go, so nice and local. Now this one here, the reason we chose it is because, you know, your first time tramping in New Zealand, you don't really, you get some friendly animals, but if you're in the US, grizzly bears, they're a real thing.
It's the only grizzly bear we have in New Zealand.
Exactly, so I thought it'd be kind of the perfect can to choose. But we probably should taste it. I mean, this is, it's vegan friendly, it's preservative free, it's an independent New Zealand brewery, and
It's like cold fizzy chocolate.
it's quite dark in terms of the colour. This guy here does have chocolate coffee mocha, and you can definitely taste it. But it is quite a dark malt. It's quite grainy. It's
definitely got flavour.
It's definitely got a lot of punch to it, eh? Yeah. No, it's a pretty cool beer. It's a robust porter, so yeah, pretty sweet beer. Anyway, we need to go through this gear, mate. So, how'd you start tramping?
Well, I mean, the most important thing, obviously, is you need something to put all the gear in. So if you're starting out and you don't have a pack, that's probably like the first investment. I would always try and start with doing some like day walks and things like that and see what you can do with what you have. And then as you start progressing further, you might want to pack to carry stuff in, you know, if you're going for a longer time, or you might start doing some overnights and things like that.
But you could borrow a pack, right?
You could borrow a pack, yeah.
When I first started tramping, which is going back quite a few years, I think about 15 years, I could be wrong, but I borrowed a pack. I was like, I can't afford this. But the problem with borrowing one is that you are limited. So you get what you're given, and it may fit, it may not. Comfort level might not be that high. But we've got what? You've got a 32 litre here, which is great for your day walk stuff.
Yeah, and we did have packs similar to this going on clearance at some point, but I think they've all sold now. But I mean, we keep an eye out for something like that.
Trying to keep the, you know, your dollar value you want to be low, but you still want to buy good quality, because you don't want to buy something twice. You want to make sure you get it the first time.
And as you carry more gear, it'll become heavier, and you want something comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to go up in size. So often a lot of the gear that you get, I think it's fair to say that if you're getting stuff that's maybe secondhand or pass-me-downs, or you're borrowing it, you don't get a choice in how small it goes down. So it can be quite bulky. So you do sometimes need a big 65 litre pack. We've got the Kelty one here, which we think is quite an affordable brand. It's good quality. It's got a good amount of comfort to it. It's a good volume.
It's quite light as well, because it's quite simple.
They are. I mean,
and it's a good price.
This is if you had something if you really wanted to buy something and you're like, I need to get myself going, I think a pack is a bit of a no-brainer. You know, if you can do it, it's definitely worthwhile.
I think it's about half the price of a lot of the other packs out there as well.
I mean, there's some big brands out there, and when you pay more money, you do get more stuff. I mean, it's definitely simpler.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's doing what you needed to do. But yeah, you don't want it to wear out on you. So still get something really good that's going to last, because I think it would suck to cheap out on something and find it just doesn't last, and you kind of get it's a bit of a down buzz.
Speaking of something that lasts, I recommend for most people to start with something bigger than you think you need, because that way it future-proofs you a little bit. That's right. If you're only doing overnights now, you might want to do, you know, some 4 or 5 day missions in the future. So something with a little bit more capacity, they do tend to cinch down quite nicely.
That's a very good point.
So it's probably worth it. It doesn't weigh that much more.
I think if someone came in, we'd probably steer it towards a 65 litre normally, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
It's a good all-round volume. You can fit sleeping bag, food, burner, clothing, a few extra things. Some people would like to take a few treats with them.
Kitchen sink.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good volume to start with. But it's important to try them on if you're going to buy one. So try it on, get fitted properly, because you want to have a good experience. But if you can't, and you've got an old pack, I mean, we could definitely help out with the fitting, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. What else have we got here, Matteo?
Well, liner for the pack, $10. Keep your stuff dry.
That's pretty essential,
That's pretty essential, yeah, for sure.
That's pretty essential.
Yeah. You can get all the dry bags and things like that, but if you're just starting out, maybe something like a liner is a good place to start.
But you could still put stuff in the pack liner.
Yeah.
I mean, this is when I first started tramping, I had this, and I used to put everything in dry bags, and that way you can compartmentalize them. But you could also, you know, if you didn't want to take something, it'd be easy to remove it. This is 13 litres. It's a pretty good volume. This is from Cedar Summit. That's their, what do they call it, Ultra Seal. So it's on the lighter side, but you don't have to go quite as light. Main thing is keeping your stuff separate. Dirty washing.
Oh yeah.
I reckon this is a good way to do it. You know,
I tend to shove the dirty washing down the bottom of my pack and put everything else on top of it.
Really? Oh, I separate it. I don't want anything else getting messed up with that.
Well, I don't take extra clothes. That's the thing. Keep it light.
Right, there you go. So, pack liner, it's important. Dry bags are super important.
Realistically, you probably only need like 2 dry bags. You know, like one for your sleeping bag, one for your clothes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Everything else can probably go in Ziploc bags or whatever, you know.
Yeah, Ziploc bags are great. The problem is that they are throwaway, so they often break real easily.
I wash mine and reuse them.
Good man. Yeah, not everyone will do that, but that's good going.
Yeah.
Takes
you
a bit of time.
peg them up on your clothesline.
Oh, there you go.
You can use them a few times. But they do die eventually, but yeah, you can use them a few times.
Yeah. So these will be a bit more robust, but hey, you know, lots of time you just got to use what's at hand, you know. It all adds up, so making sure we get something that, you know, you can afford. Now, I reckon footwear is very, very important.
Yeah.
So
that's something you can't really borrow.
Yeah, we talked about this
fitted.
before, and it's like, what can you borrow? What do you have to buy? Footwear is something you kind of have to commit to.
You got to get something that fits your foot.
Yeah. Well, I started tramping with some really old school army boots, and they were 2 sizes too big. I had to wear 2 pairs of socks, and I never got the fit right. I got hooked on tramping. It was great, but end of the day, I did get lots of blisters. My feet weren't the most comfortable, and I think if I was to do it again, I'd probably just get something like a real good trainer. This is Toppo. They do it's actually a trail shoe. Trail shoe is going to be the better option for you because obviously you're on trails, but they're nice and light. They drain. Often you have them already. If you're trail running or if you just, you know, a good recreational shoe, perfect choice. Just make sure it's got good grip, because there's nothing worse than doing a tramp where essentially it's not holding onto the terrain. But that's a really good option. Now, I guess the drawback is if you don't have very strong ankles, it doesn't really give you much support.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people when you're starting out, as long as you're getting out in your feet like a decent amount, go after work, do some hikes and go for some runs and things like that, you'll kind of develop that strength. But if you have ankle issues, you could go up to something that has a bit of ankle support as well. If you feel like you want that. Sometimes a lot of people carrying a heavier pack as well prefer to have the ankle support, so that's just personal preference. I tend to do everything in shoes, but I have no ankle issues, so I'm lucky like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think there's a lot of people that would go, I'm going to destroy these. I want something a bit more robust. Approach shoes, they're a really good all-rounder. There's a bunch of brands that we sell and are around. Get the one that fits. I mean, they're not too expensive, but the thing is these guys do
they'll last like 10 times this.
They almost do everything for you. You know, you could do day hikes. You probably can't run on these; they're a bit too stiff. But
I've got a pair of these. I run in it sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, something's chasing me.
No, might be a grizzly bear.
Like a grizzly bear. Yeah.
But I mean, that's nice and durable. It's more rugged, so it's going to take a bit more of a beating per se. And they're well known for that. You know, these are designed for harsher terrains, but they're just, if you wanted to commit to something a bit more grunty, that's probably the way forward. And then you'd probably step up to that, right?
Yeah, and then you can get like leather, gruntier versions of boots as well if you want to go like proper robust with all the support and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bit personal preference, and obviously the main thing is just, you know, this might fit you better, so get this. Yeah,
it's all about fit. It's definitely worth taking the time, get some shoes that are correct for you. Now I can understand if maybe you're a family that's starting out and you got kids. Scarpa have released footwear. But I mean, kids grow so fast, so you do have to be a bit mindful about that. So there are tips and tricks that we can help you install to kind of make that work. But end of the day, it's an investment in good quality gear. And if you had a few kids, you could probably actually do pass me downs, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Buy one pair and then get the oldest one in them, and then give it down the line. Definitely, a lot of people already do that, and it's a really good way to do it. So you're still getting them into a good product, but end of the day, it's not going to be costing you every year to get new shoes. Now, I think the next best thing against shoes is socks.
Yeah. They're almost like 50% of the thing, isn't it?
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
you can't put a bare foot into this and be comfortable all day, especially if it gets too wet.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
As a rule of thumb for any clothes, like you don't want to use things like cotton. Stuff that you use in the street or anything like that normally
what's
doesn't
wrong
work.
with cotton?
Well, it just soaks up moisture and doesn't dry and that sort of thing. So something like a merino sock is a pretty good investment. Even like just any sports clothing, like I like having a long sleeve sports shirt.
True.
Save money on sunscreen.
Oh, nah.
Yeah.
Sunscreen is an investment. If you're like
Yeah, but
me,
long sleeve, that means you don't have to do your
I
arms,
still
right?
burn, mate.
Through the shirt.
Well, my face gets burnt.
Oh yeah, you use it for that, obviously.
Yeah, but I think sunscreen's still good. You
Oh
guys
yeah,
can
yeah. You
choose
still
what
use
you do.
sunscreen, but use less because you have.
So these socks, well, they are merino, as Matteo said. Merino is absolutely amazing to use, especially if you're going to get wet, because you want to stay warm. Now, get something that's fitted. If you went to, there's some other brands out there that do really, really, really affordable socks, but they just don't really fit. And what it's going to do is it's going to make your really nice fitting shoes not fit that well, because your socks are going to be causing a bit of slippage. You're not going to be holding onto them very well.
They bunch up and stuff like that.
And they may
and
not
get
last
blisters.
as long. So if I could say one thing, it would be typically these socks aren't necessarily the cheapest, but they last a bloody long time. I've still got Smartwool of happy years, and it's definitely recommended. But these guys have padding in the right areas, so your comfort level's higher. They fit nice and snug. And you can wear them multiple days. So what do you take when you tramp? You take two sets of clothes?
Nah.
Nah.
Really.
So I would, most people that I used to tramp with, they'd take 2 pairs of socks, one that you wear, one that's like your wet pair, and then one that's dry.
Yeah, I
So you
take
wear-
2 pairs of socks for sure. Yeah.
And then you might take one base layer, one leggings, and then a jersey.
I also don't go out in the rain, so.
Yeah, I mean, essentially you want to have a set of clothing for the hut, and then the stuff you wear, and that's pretty much, you just rotate it. You dry it out as you can. Now, in terms of sleeping bags, it's a bit of a conjecture, isn't it, old sleeping bags? What do you go for?
Well,
Should you buy your own?
Well, I mean, you can borrow stuff if you have that capability, in which case it's worth investing in your own liner. You can wash that and it'll help prolong, even if you own your own sleeping bag, it'll help prolong the lifespan of your sleeping bag.
Yeah, but if you were to,
keep it clean and stuff like that.
if you were to borrow a sleeping bag from a mate, say like,
You definitely want to use a liner for sure, yeah.
So this one, well, that's actually a pillow, mate. So
Oh, yeah.
your comfort level will be higher, but you could do a liner there.
Liner, there you go.
It's gonna add a bit of insulation, which is important, so you stay nice and toasty. But I think you nailed it. I mean, it's about cleanliness, making sure that you can hop in this, and then, look, if it's really, really warm, you can probably use this on its own. Really just depends on where you are and what your body temperature's like. But that would be a great addition to this guy. What have you got?
So yeah, if you're getting your own sleeping bag, you want to start out with something basic. This is the Sierra Designs Get Down 35. So that's a summer bag. Often I tend to use a bag that's not quite as warm as I actually need. And that way I find it more versatile to take a bit more clothing. Because often I will wear clothing in my bag if it's really cold. Rather than taking like a really, really warm bag for like the coldest temperature you're possibly going to encounter. This is, I can't remember what the temperature rating is, but it's 35 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that is in Celsius.
So it's not the warmest.
Yeah, it'll be just a summer bag.
It'll add a little bit
But,
of insulation, but
It's not too bad pack size. Like if you imagine that in the bag, it'll sit
pretty
down the
good.
bottom.
Now just bear in mind that if you've got a big 65 litre pack, that's probably going to take up a good portion of the bottom section.
Yeah.
So you just got to think about this when you buy a pack as to what gear have you got and kind of how big does it go down to? Because a lot of people go, what size do I start with? And the reality is their gear is still quite big.
And then if you wanted to invest in downsizing and going lightweight, something like a sleeping bag, going for a higher end sleeping bag could be a good place to put your money. This is a Cedar Summit Spark 7-degree bag. So similar kind of warmth rating to this, but I mean, size-wise, you can't compete.
You could invest in that one, and that would do you for most things. But then if you're really into tramping, you're like, actually, I like this sport. It is a sport after all. Like this activity. You could upgrade to this, or you could just go, I'm committed to this fully, and save a bit more money, and get something that's going to last you, for a few more years. Well, it's actually just going to last you at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, if you don't want to do like
it's just going to
fast pack
be
and
a bit more
stuff like
versatile in terms of what conditions you can use it in and how warm you're going to be.
Yeah.
But you've got to hop in these because
Yeah,
they all fit different, eh?
Yeah, it's all about fit, really.
It's all about fit. Now, a lot of people do start with synthetic. We don't really have synthetic bags here in the shop, to be honest, at the moment. We find a lot of people like to go as small as they can. That's what down really does well. But synthetic is a really affordable, I say affordable, it's not cheap necessarily, it's affordable way to get into a bag. And the thing is you can wash it quite easily. Obviously, you know, bathtub at home, give it a good wash, hang it up. You can use it quite a few times. It's a really good way if you've got, maybe you've got kids and they're not so tidy in the morning, you know, they spill stuff on, like hot drinks and all that, you can wash them easy, whereas these ones here you need a bit more care on them. But these will be warmer overall and more compact. Now,
yeah, I mean, price-wise,
what
I think this is
are we
about,
talking?
about half the price.
Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it?
I think this is like $200 to $300, and these are like $600 to $700. So, you know, you're looking at double the price, half the size, double the price.
Yeah,
so it's an investment.
Definitely worth investing in. If you can, if you're in a position where you can do it, it's one of the things to consider. Now, I feel like we haven't. Yeah, kitchen. How do you cook? What do you cook?
Well, people eat when they go tramping.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you got to take you got to take your food with you. You know.
Oh. So what have we got? We got
we got some stoves.
This is JetBoil, mate, and then I've got what, Optimus.
Yeah.
Two good brands.
Absolutely.
But they're two different things.
So
what have we got?
Little stove like this. That's like I think these go for $140 at the moment. So that's like a relatively affordable option. It's quite simple. You can get any kind of pot, like an aluminium pot or whatever. Sometimes people have them floating around from other people and things like that anyway.
Yeah, that's the one that you could probably borrow, isn't it?
Borrow.
But I mean, if you want to commit, they're not too expensive.
They'll screw onto any of these gas canisters you can get from a variety of different places.
Yeah.
And they work fine.
Yep.
You know, they're not the most efficient thing out there. They're not going to boil the water the fastest.
But you're not mountaineering, are you?
But you can kind of use it. They're quite versatile.
You're just going to a basic campsite, really.
Yeah.
With basic facilities and a table where you could put your gas burner. Make sure you open the window in the hut if you're going to be doing this. Gas isn't the best to, you know, take in. You still want to be able to focus the next day. But what's this guy?
This is the JetBoil. So these are very, very popular. So if you did want to invest in a bit of a higher end stove, something like a JetBoil could be a good option. Basically, they'll boil water faster and they'll use less fuel. So if you're going out for long emissions, that can really count, especially if you're eating a lot of like dehydrated food and stuff like that. Just boiling water, melting snow, things like that can be really, really helpful. But yeah, they are more expensive, I think.
They are quite bulky. So
yeah, this is the bulkier version.
This is nice and small, compact. You could put this. I think a lot of people, if they had a pot system, they'd probably put this inside the pot. Maybe the gas can go with it, depending on your pot size, and then it can go as a whole unit. I mean, when you're packing a pack, you're just playing Tetris, aren't you, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just working out what works best for you. I can't tell you how to pack your pack. I can give you recommendations, but it's all personal preference, how you like to access stuff, how you like it to sit, the weight distribution. But
some people even put them in their little aluminium cup. Go fully ultralight.
Oh, there you go.
Little cup of water, little stove.
It's real personal preference.
On you go.
So you've got your burners. Now, what have you got? Your cutlery. So I would say, in most cases, raid your kitchen pantry. You probably got, or maybe not the pantry, the kitchen drawers. You've probably got utensils at home, but I reckon they're about twice the weight.
Yeah, probably.
And they don't clip together.
Yeah.
About $10.
$10.
That's 2 coffees.
$10. Cheap. Light.
Pretty good.
However, if you did want to spend a bit more money, getting something metal, like aluminium.
It'll last way longer.
Yeah.
I've snapped quite a few of those.
Yeah, I've snapped quite a few plastic ones.
Yeah.
They are cheap and light, but they are cheap and light.
If you wedged them in the pack wrong, and you sat on your pack at lunchtime just to chill out, it wouldn't take much pressure to in half. And then you're spoonless.
Then something like a bowl. You know, you can take a bowl from home, you know, just like a heavy bowl or whatever, or you could even go to like a second-hand shop and
It's true.
Get like
op shops are great. Sometimes you can get some real bargains.
There, yeah.
Sometimes you can not. But sometimes it's better just to commit to something that's new.
Yeah, because these things here, they have quite a hard base. You could even like chop your cheese on it and that sort of stuff, and then they pop out into a bowl.
That one there isn't one that you can put on a stove. Some brands out there you've got like a base you could actually cook on, but that one there is just your base.
So that's quite a versatile piece of kit. You know, this would be the only bowl you need really.
Yep.
Although to be honest, if I'm going out by myself, often I'll just eat out of my pot.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If it's only you, it makes a lot of sense. Save the dishes, one dish,
oh, and the
one
other
pot
thing,
wonder.
We didn't grab one out, but here's my Nalgene.
Oh mate, that's a genius idea.
These things are versatile. So I actually use this as my coffee cup, as my like soup cup, as my everything cup.
And there's a bit of a knack with Nalgenes. you have to cover them in stickers.
Absolutely.
Like it's kind of like a rule behind buying them. Like you
So-
have to coat them.
So this is the 500 ml Nalgene. I find that quite a nice size. Obviously, I'll have other things for storing water as well, but it's nice to have different options. So I can have this with like some electrolyte, and I can have my water with.
Oh, speaking of which, we've got some.
electrolytes. Yeah, there you go. And then I can have my other water with something else or something like that, or I can fill up on the go with this. It's quite handy.
Yep.
And then you can also put hot water in this at night and put it in your sleeping bag and use it as a hot water bottle, because these things don't leak and they don't have any of those nasty chemicals that will leach into the water. So
That's a good
good versatile piece of kit.
good starting point. Yeah, absolutely. Now we did just touch on this. Goo is one of the brands that we sell. In the day, what we're trying to do is give a bit of energy to the body. If you're doing a first tramp, maybe your fitness isn't quite there, maybe it's been a really long day, maybe you've gone way further than you thought you'd go, or maybe you just need a bit of a pick-me-up. This is a good way to go because you are replacing all electrolytes. This doesn't have caffeine in it, but essentially you've got 12 tablets, add them to a bottle of water, and it will be like a Barocca, it will just go off, but it gives you a few more things in this. Now, I've got a little hack with this. If you can't justify buying this, because you know it definitely is worthwhile, but they do add up, everything adds up, but it's only going to give you sugar, only sugar.
Yeah.
So it's a bit
Jelly
of a
beans.
pick-me-up. It won't really last that long, but if you really are strapped for the budget, you're like, what do I prefer to buy and what do I prioritise? Replace this with Raro. Get some jelly beans, go to a lolly shop, supermarket, buy some sweets. They go a long way. And I reckon you probably have a few mates that want to stay beside you that whole time you got them. Because I've always found that. I always take more of the snacks because everyone else raids them. Trust me, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, you've got all...
With food as well, like these freeze dries.
You can't miss food.
These things are fantastic. It's super handy, super like light, and will heat up real quick. You can eat out of the bag.
Real convenient.
Real convenient. But they're not the cheapest.
No.
You know,
Especially if
it's
you're
worth grabbing a
doing
few.
a 5-day trip. That's
Yeah,
5
yeah.
different meals. It's going to add up pretty fast.
Yeah, it's worth grabbing a few freeze dries, but I often don't take freeze dries for all of my meals.
No.
So something like, couscous, that's a really good one, because that's just hot water. Chuck a
good.
bit of butter in there and like some stock or something like
Take
that.
some meat or veggies, whatever your dietary requirements are. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for most people starting out, you always want to plan to have at least one night's food spare. Anything can go wrong, and you want something that doesn't go off.
That's a
So-
fantastic backup meal for sure.
Oh, isn't it
'Cause
good?
It can
And-
sit in the bottom of your pack.
And you could, in theory,
sealed.
if you didn't have if you'd somehow lost or your burner was broken, you ran out of gas, you could just do it as cold water, eh?
Yeah, in cold
So
soak it,
it's
yeah.
a really, really good hack to have this with you if you need a backup meal. And it's always a wise decision. You just never quite know who you're going to cross along the trail. But trips go out of plan quite often, and you've got to adapt to them, and that's a really, really key thing. Now, I reckon clothing is a really good thing to touch on. I would say that most people raid what you've got at home. Go through your wardrobe. What do you have that's a Primaloft down, maybe a synthetic layer. Don't do cotton. Cotton is just going to absorb moisture. It's going to not dry. It's going to keep you cold. So what have we got? You mentioned about having a like a nice long sleeve top. That would work. But then you could get a fleece. Fleeces are a handy bit of kit because they pack down to not a lot. They have a lot of heat that they provide once you get them on and you're layering properly. So this has got waffle material. So this is going to be really good layer. You could have a fleece at home. Just make sure it's actually fleece, not a cotton one. This is going to be nice and compact, so it's going to be a good thing to have with you.
And they're a little bit cheaper than some of the other mid layers as well.
They
the
are quite
fleeces,
affordable way. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, you can wash these easily. But they don't really have an odor to them. They'll, you can wear them in multiple days, and your mates will still like you. But they also do insulate really well. I mean, the big thing is that they have a lot of heat to them. But then, what I think is probably one of the most versatile jackets you can buy is a Primaloft jacket. Now, why is a Primaloft jacket so good?
Because it's warm.
It's warm.
Yeah, it's warm.
When it's wet, it stays warm too.
Yeah, so often I'll take a down jacket, but it normally lives in the bottom of my pack, just like compressed. So when I get to camp, if I'm stopping for a period of time, I'll chuck my down jacket on. But I don't normally wear it while I'm moving, because when down gets dirty and sweaty and stuff like that, it loses its loft. And often to fix that, you have to wash it. And every time you wash it, you'll lose a little bit of down, and then you lose your jacket quality over time. So
But down is really good for pure warmth.
For
right?
warmth to
If you're at
weight
a hut
ratio,
or
yeah, you
a
can't beat down.
campsite, you
Which
can't
is
beat
why,
it, can
which is
you?
why you have sleeping bags made under down.
That's
But
true.
if you're going to be active in it and going to be using it, going to be getting it dirty, you want to wash it, synthetic's definitely the way to go.
Yeah. So this is what would we call this? An active layer. So you're on the move. You
Yeah,
wanna
it's
stay
quite
nice-
a warm active layer, but yeah.
It is. I mean, to be fair, but if you're going to get one, you want to get one that's a good temperature for you. You want to get fitting really well, but you could use this daily, man.
That's my go-to mid layer,
I know.
essentially. I use it all year round.
Yeah, it's such a good layer. Find one that works for you. Find the weight that works for you in terms of how warm you want it to be. Because if you're using it all the time, everyone has different temperature regulations. But just make sure you're happy with it. Get a good one. Make sure you invest in something that's, because these last a very long time. Like I've still got some synthetic jackets from brands that we sell here. Oh mate, I mean they're still going on. I mean I've been doing tramping for a long time, and I'd say some of them are at least 8 years old. That's pretty good, and I've been pretty happy with it. So that's the bad boy that you should probably definitely look at if you're like, I need something that's an all-rounder. Not waterproof. It has a little bit of coating on the outside, but I mean if you're looking at a warm jacket, that's really good. Now, when I first started tramping, and people that know me will know this story, I started tramping in a PVC jacket, a big bright yellow thing, doesn't breathe, but fully waterproof, really bulky, but lasts a very long time. It still looks like new because they just don't wear out. But technology has come such a long way, and if you, I mean, you might be able to find these on sale in the clearance area. Sometimes you can pick these up secondhand. It's a bit tricky with secondhand ones because you don't quite know the condition. You've got to take them through a wash. But this is a pack light. So pack light is a real good, what would you say? It's like a...
Packable.
It's packable.
It still performs really well as well, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And cost-wise, it's not too bad for
it's
a
kind of in the
Gore-Tex
middle.
jacket. Yeah.
So you're getting something that can handle a pack. It's not top end. It's not cheap. It's going to last you a long time. But it's right in that price point where if you had, like realistically, 350 to 500 is probably the pricing range most of the time between brands. If you get them on sale, they last a long time, but they're fully waterproof. The thing is with Packlight is that it won't breathe quite as well as some of the top end jackets, but
when I started out,
pretty
I
good.
didn't even know what a membrane was.
No, exactly. I mean, you need something that works, right?
I had a jacket that I inherited from my mum.
Yeah.
It was a sailing jacket.
Similar to me, mate.
Yeah, except for it didn't have a membrane in it. So
did mine.
so
Mine was just
anytime
PVC.
it rained, it all leaked through the shoulders where the stitching was. And I was like, man, I got real sweaty armpits, but no, it was my jacket leaking.
Oh, that's no good. So you don't want that.
So a membrane is something like a Gore-Tex, and that's a layer that runs in the jacket, and then it'll keep the water from getting in. A lot of, you can get really cheap waterproof jackets, and they say they're waterproof, but they're actually just waterproof coating, which means that as soon as that starts wearing out from a pack, it's just going to leak straight through.
Yeah, and that's not fun. I mean, you want to invest in something that's going to last a long, long time.
This is also a safety item, so it's definitely worth
investing.
investing
You got to take care of it. You know, it's like anything, but it'll last you a long time, and you'll have this for many, many trips. But I think if you were to get a waterproof jacket and you wanted something that was like going to do the job really well, I would probably lean towards Packlight. Personally, that's what I'd do.
Well, our opinions might differ a little bit there. Personally, I think it's worth upgrading to the next step up and getting a nylon face fabric, because that's going to handle a bit more abuse.
That's true.
And last you a bit longer.
That's a good point. You could do that.
But
It all
price,
depends on how much you want to
I
spend.
guess, but yeah.
I mean, this is all really good ideas. I mean, so I think that in a nutshell, get a pack that fits. If you can buy a new one, that's going to be best for you because you're going to have one that's going to work for you really, really well. Invest in a good sleeping bag if you can. Footwear is a no-brainer. Get fitted up. Get something that's going to work. But a lot of the stuff you can probably raid your friends' place. Ask them first. Make sure you return it as well. And sometimes there's parents out there that have gear. Borrow what you can. But
Second-hand shops.
Yeah, second-hand shops.
A lot of my hiking kit is just from second-hand shops.
Just make sure you look over the gear properly and make sure it's still going to last because you want it to work when you buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's
Sweet.
a pretty good range. It's going to get you out there.
If you have any questions about any of this stuff, just come in the store and have a chat with us, and we can tell you all of our stories about how we came to the decisions we came to.
Yeah, and try them on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come see us. Thanks, guys.
Sweet. Peace out.